afternoon. I am Tanika Harris, the Director of Communication and Community Relations for the Urban Redevelopment Authority. We welcome you to our August 11th regular board meeting. Chairman Chintalapoli, we have a few board members who are on their way. Our staff are ready, and Lindsay Powell, we thank you for coming. Councilman Lavelle, we see you. Glad you are here safe. It has been a great week, and so we are so excited to pass this over to you. Please take it over.
Thank you, Tanika. Yeah, we'll start with roll call. Let the record reflect Councilman Lavelle and Director Powell are both present. As Tanika noted, we expect the rest of the board to join us later, and we'll make sure the public and the record are reflective of that when it happens. First order of business is approval of the July 14th, 2022 board meeting minutes. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries. Please let the record reflect that Director Williamson has joined us as well. I do want to note that the board met to have a briefing on today's agenda yesterday, August 10th. This briefing was for informational purposes only. We're going to move into announcements and start off with the 2022 Q2 URA impact report.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Elisa Balestra, and I'm the Manager of Strategic Data and Impact, filling in today for Dylan Sloat. On your screen are just some highlights from the Q2 2022 URA impact report. Just as a reminder, the full report is available on the impact page of the URA.org website. And highlights the work that's been done by the URA in Q2. Snapshots from this quarter's report include that 40 businesses were connected with technical assistance through the Get Online, Grow Online program and its partnership with Chatham University. 78 folks were able to stay in their homes through either housing crisis prevention programs or housing-related legal assistance provided by our Housing Opportunity Fund programs. 19 individuals were assisted in achieving home ownership through the HOF program down payment and closing cost assistance program. 64 units of affordable housing were created or preserved by our residential and consumer lending programs. 8 loans were closed between the URA and its affiliates in Q2 worth over $500,000. And almost $390,000 in land care plus NIF dollars were dispersed to businesses maintaining vacant lots and to support neighborhood projects. I encourage anyone who's interested in reading further on these data statistics to please go to the impact page on URA.org. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Lisa. Any questions from the board? No. All right. Moving on to the Business in Our Sites award announcement.
Thank you, everyone, and really grateful for this opportunity to present some exciting news to you. And my name is Charles Hudson. I'm a senior project manager with the URA, serving URA development services as well as our affiliate PEIDC, and that's Pittsburgh Economic and Industrial Development Corporation. And this Business in Our Sites award, I really want to thank Senator Fontana for supporting us. He's also on our PEIDC board, and Representative Innamorato, who's on this URA board, for their support at the state level as we worked through this grant and got the award. On July 19th, it was announced that we received $3.5 million from the Commonwealth. They allocated about $48 million across the state, a little above $48 million, and we received this 3.5 for the Fairywood industrial site that we're working on. And of that grant, it's a grant and a loan. There's 1.4 million that's a grant, 2.1 million that is a low interest loan with the state that goes into that project for infrastructure work. And this Business in Our Sites, it's been a long time since we have been awarded this before in the city of Pittsburgh. We're really proud of this and this project. As Greg Flisserum says, this project continues to deliver good news, and we're real excited about it. The grant itself goes to empower communities to attract growing and expanding businesses by helping them build an inventory of ready sites. So really excited about this and look forward to telling you more good news about the Fairywood industrial site. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Charles. Do want to obviously acknowledge Representative Bandizi as well from the State House, whose district this is in, and was supportive of the project and getting the BIOS award. Are there any other questions, I guess, comments from the board? I know we're going to talk about the Fairywood Industrial Park a little bit later in the agenda as well, but exciting to see this and investment in this part of the town. So thank you, Charles.
Thank you.
Also, please let the record reflect that Representative Morado has joined us, as Charles noted. So we do have all board members present for our meeting today. Next on announcements, we have the release of the RFP for Avenues of Hope Facade Program Contractor Services.
Yes, hello. Hi, board members. My name is Miranda Messier. I am a neighborhood business district outreach analyst in the Business Solutions Department. I am announcing today that we will be releasing a request for proposals for the Avenues of Hope Facade program. This RFP will be to contract with 2 to 3 general contractors that will take on the AOH facade grant projects, as opposed to how the program currently is, where each grantee selects and manages their own contractors. This contract with the general contractors will not exceed $100,000, and each individual facade project is $12,000 or less. So the reasoning for this is due to the funding source, which is Community Development Block Grant funding. The small businesses, the grantees, have had various issues finding contractors available and willing to comply with the CDBG regulations, which has really put a burden on the small businesses receiving the grants. So in order to really streamline the process, we believe that having these contractors on hand will make the grant recipients process easier, as well as ensure we are complying with CDBG regulations on the back end. So we plan to release this RFP at the end of August and select a handful of contractors shortly after. The guidelines for this grant program are also being updated and presented to you today on the disclosures agenda.
Thank you, Miranda. Director Powell.
I had a quick question. Thank you so much, Miranda. Could you talk a little bit about how we've done outreach in particular to MWBE contractors to make sure they're a part of and aware of this program?
So we are, since the RFP isn't necessarily released yet, we haven't done outreach in selecting or spreading the word about this RFP, but we do plan to get the list of MWBE contractors that the URA has and make sure we're spreading the word to them to make sure that they are submitting their RFP.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Along the lines of what Director Powell just said, Miranda, if we haven't done any outreach to some of the diverse chambers of commerce, they could be a good resource. And then I would say here at the city, Chuck Durham on our team, interfaces with a lot of diverse businesses, pretty regularly that, are probably mostly on our list, but, to the extent that there aren't any and we could expand our pool, that would be helpful. I'm sure Chuck would be ready and willing to have that conversation with our team, certainly. But seems like a creative solution, for the reasons that you noted, as well as, making the opportunities a little larger for the contractors, to go after as well, and supporting the businesses, as a group. So thank you for your work on this. Exciting to see. Director Williamson, I don't know if you had a comment, or it looks like you're on here twice now, but you came off mute for a second. Okay. Any other questions or comments from the board? No. Great. Thank you very much, Marina. Next on announcements, a bittersweet one, retirement of David Majcher.
Hello, everyone. My name is Madeline Augello. I am the Quality Control Officer in the Commercial Lending Department, and I've worked with Dave for over 37 years. So I'm honored to speak on his behalf of his retirement. Although we never worked in the same department, we were never on the same projects. We were both on the 11th floor of 200 Ross Street, and we saw each other almost every day. Dave started at the URA in December of 1981, so that's over 40 years. He was a construction inspector and later became the construction coordinator and was an integral part of the engineering and construction department. And his work over all these years ensured to stabilize so much of the distressed communities in the city of Pittsburgh. Part of his job was to review construction costs. He inspected homes, apartment buildings, parking garages, commercial buildings. Some of the URA-owned properties are super creepy, moldy, and he would just walk through them and tour them and inspect them. And one example is he walked into a building and he noticed that the bearing walls were not correct. So he immediately talked to the foreman and made sure that they made all the changes so the building is safe. And I remember seeing a slide at the board meeting in 2019 where the engineering and construction department, they conducted 1,100 inspections in 6 months and in 58 neighborhoods. And I'm sure Dave did probably over 500 of those. So he was very integral in our neighborhoods. Some of you may know that our offices at 200 Ross Street were not in the best condition. I can't tell you how many times I would ask Dave to help me fix something. He was my Mr. Fix-It. He was the Mr. Fix-It for the URA. If you needed to fix your cubicle, a piece of furniture, you just called Dave and he would come and fix it. And so many times I'm like, I can't lift this box. And I would call Dave and he would help me move things. And he was just so easygoing and giving of his time. He volunteered for so many things. I remember Paint Your Heart Out and Rebuilding Together. And one year we were at this woman's house in a neighborhood and I was painting the floorboards and the windowsills, and Dave was outside building an entire retaining wall for this woman. And she was so grateful. And she's like, you guys are so awesome. And his work was awesome. He was super talented. And in the early 80s and 90s and the early aughts, the URA used to have a softball team and a bowling team. And he would always participate in all those things. And sometimes we would get invited to golf outings. So he loved to golf. So I would golf with him, and we would have so much fun at social events like picnics and holidays, and everyone always crowded around Dave because they enjoyed his company and wanted to hang out with him. About 3 years ago, he was promoted to construction manager for the Pittsburgh Housing Development Corporation, which is a URA affiliate. So since then, and because of COVID, you know, we were working from home, so I didn't get to see him very often, which was kind of sad, but he loved doing his job and getting his hands dirty and going out there and fixing things. And his least favorite part was doing the paperwork. I remember we would always laugh and he's like, oh geez, I have to do a memo. And he would just rather be out there doing the work. So now that he's retired, he can just help renovate homes for his friends and family and go fishing and golfing all he wants. And I'm sure we all want to wish him well in his retirement. He spent practically his entire adult life serving the residents and the businesses of the city of Pittsburgh. And he was certainly a valued member of the URA team, and he will be missed by so many of us. He was an amazing person. He is an amazing person. He's super generous, and it's really remarkable for someone to work in the same place for over 40 years. And people just don't do that anymore. So just wanted to congratulate him and honor him, and he's the best, and I'll miss him. Thank you.
Thank you, Madeline.
That was such a beautiful way to celebrate all the work that David's done. So Dave, thank you so much for your time at the URA. And I want to say again, thank you for the beautiful words. Like you said, 40 years at an institution is a very long time. And the city and the URA board is so grateful for all the work that Dave's done. So happy retirement.
Yeah, I'd just like to add too, I'm not gonna add to what Madeline said because she put it so well, but I had an opportunity to go to a dinner that Rich Snipe put on for Dave a few weeks ago, and it kind of turned into a roast. It was actually a pretty hysterical night. And Dave, is a very irreverent personality. I got to know him a little bit. And he has enough stories to fill a book about URA history, some of the stuff you don't see in the coffee table book. So it was really, really fun listening to some of his stories. And as Madeline said, very dedicated, very, very reverent, very hardworking guy. So Dave, if you're listening, thanks very much. And we'll hope to see you around town.
That's great. Yeah, Madeline, you put it well. Really nice tribute to Dave. Yeah, I've had the pleasure to know him now for, I guess, 10, 12 years. And when you think about everything it takes to do the projects that we do, so many people are behind the scenes and doing the work and doing it because they care about it and not, for the recognition and the praise. And Dave fits that mold. And, like you said, just the sheer volume of what he's done over such a long career with the authority is amazing. And the time I was able to be fortunate enough to be on the Pittsburgh Housing Development Corporation board, I know he was really instrumental into doing some of the work that Rich Snipe and Diamante had really outlined for PHDC to act as its own general and really with all the deep experience that Dave has, not just through inspection, but to do the work directly, like you mentioned. He was really powerful force behind expanding and growing those efforts for PHDC and delivering home ownership opportunity, affordable home ownership opportunities for our residents. So even up until the last few years, he didn't stop putting everything he had into it. So he will be dearly missed, but it's certainly a well-earned retirement. So certainly wish him all the best. I see a hand raised, guys. No. Okay. Well, thank you. And thank you, Dave. I know it's not on the announcement list, but there is another departure just to acknowledge, our chief counsel, Nathan Clark, is going to be moving on from the URA here over the next few weeks. Someone else who's, been with the authority, not quite 40 years, but certainly a long time, and another one of those, kind of unsung key players in the background for so much of what the authority does, and has really shaped a lot of, the work that we do from land disposition through, a number of other fronts. So do want to take a moment just to acknowledge Nathan, thank him, for his service, and wish him well in his new endeavors as he moves on from the URA. But wanted to make sure we acknowledge that as well. With that, we'll be moving into the bulk of the regular agenda. First up is residential lending and investments. Larimer, East Liberty Boulevard for sale housing project pre-development loan. Victoria?
Yes,
Yeah.
Hi. Good afternoon. My name is Victoria Jackson, and I am a lending analyst with the Residential Lending and Investments Department here at the URA. Today, I'm presenting a pre-development loan request from East Liberty Development Incorporated on behalf of Kill Partners. East Liberty Development Incorporated, also known as ELDI, requests a loan in the amount of $200,000 to finance the pre-development activities related to the new construction of 6 affordable units that will be part of a larger 18-unit for sale development project on East Liberty Boulevard in the Larimer neighborhood. The proposed loan will be sourced with Housing Opportunity Fund 2021 for sale development funds. The loan will have a 12-month term at 0% interest and carry a 10-year affordability period. The pre-development loan would be used to pay for architectural and engineering design services, as well as project consultants. These 6 units will be sold to buyers at or below 80% AMI. This loan request does exceed the $100,000 maximum for pre-development loan, where a project occurs across multiple properties. As such, we are also requesting a waiver of the guidelines. A little more information about this project. This development is part of the Larimer for-sale housing strategy as outlined in the Larimer Vision and Action Plan managed by Keel Partners, which is a collaboration between Kingsley Association, East Liberty Housing Incorporated, ELDI, and Larimer Consensus Group. This strategy includes the construction of up to 54 sale homes, 30% of which will be affordable units. ELDI is currently undergoing the disposition process, previously receiving a hold for market letter from this body in February 2022 to purchase 17 lots from the URA to develop these units. They plan to begin construction on the planned 18 units in April 2023 and complete construction in June 2024. In addition to their own equity, ELDI has secured a line of credit from Dollar Bank and a Heinz Endowment grant. So once again, we are requesting approval of a waiver of the FSDP guidelines and a pre-development loan in the amount of $200,000 for ELDI. Malik Bankston of Keel Partners is also here today to answer any questions you may have about the project. With that, I will open the floor to questions.
Thank you, Victoria. Malik, I want to give you the chance if there's anything you'd like to add.
Well, I guess, first, thanks for the opportunity. I don't know that there's anything else to add to the really accurate summary that was presented that describes the project. I guess one thing I would say is that I would point out that the Keel Partners collectively have already expended or committed in excess of $250,000 to this project. So we are very much fully committed to sort of accomplishing this last segment of the overall comprehensive housing strategy that was outlined some 10 years ago, 12 years ago in the Larimer Vision Action Plan. So, if there are any questions, I'm happy to try to answer those questions on behalf of the Keel Partners.
Representative Morano.
Thank you. I have a few technical questions. So the first, when we're talking about this loan having a 10-year affordability requirement, when does that 10 years, when does the clock start on that 10 years? Is it when the loan is issued and like the pre-development activities, or is it once the unit is fully constructed and on the market?
Now, that's a good question that I actually don't know the specific answer to that question. Our colleagues and partners at ELDI are probably much more conversant and familiar with those specific provisions and terms. And they're on the call and they may be able to answer that question directly.
Great, thank you.
I also can answer that question. So
Perfect.
the clock does start.
Thank you.
Oh, no worries. That's what I'm here for. So, the clock does start on our loans once the agreements are signed. So that
Okay.
that is when that will start.
Great. And then a follow-up question to that is because these are for sale units, correct?
Mhm.
So if if someone does purchase the property who meets the 80% area median income, and they want to sell within that 10-year window, whenever that, once that clock starts, would then there just be how would that be handled? Would there be a deed restriction and they would have to sell to another person who is 80% or below area median income, or is that absolved once it's in an individual owner's hands?
Okay. Yeah, so actually I would like to take a step back and make corrections. So the actual deed restriction does begin at the sale of the property. We have talked with ELDI as well. And we do anticipate that they will probably be coming back for construction financing as well, which will then roll into probably an extended, probably beyond 10 years affordability period as well. I am so sorry, Representative Morado. The second part of your question did escape me. Sorry. Well, if you don't mind re-asking it.
Oh, just so you're talking about there potentially is going to be extended affordability. I'm just wondering, you did mention there would be a deed restriction on that individual who purchases that home. That answered my question. I appreciate you providing that technical information.
As a follow-on to that, excuse me, related, this is just for pre-development costs. So conceivably, as they go through, putting together the development budget, and Malik, I don't know if you're in a position to speak to how far along that is, but to Representative Morado's question around the affordability term, if there are other funds that go in, whether it's from programs through HOF or in partnership with other folks, there's conceivably it could end up being longer than the 10 years. Right now, we're saying just through the pre-development, it's 10 years, and then the rest of that stuff sort of through this process would kind of be a result of putting the rest of the deal together.
Yeah, I think that's an accurate characterization, Kyle. As everyone knows, this conundrum of figuring out how to do affordable home ownership programs have been incredibly challenging, and so we have begun to sort of crack the code, if you will. This is just one of many steps as part of that process as we continue to sort of work our way through it. I think we will all be very, I'll say, pleased at the end of the construction phase of this project when we actually get the market in terms of the overall affordability guarantees almost that we will be able to sort of put in place vis-a-vis the various support and whatnot that we anticipate.
Okay. And Victoria or Evan, the properties here that are owned or controlled by the URA, where are those in process? I apologize if you mentioned that. Are they operating with license agreements sort of right now, and then we'll ultimately take votes, for disposition later?
Yes, I do believe that at this stage they are just at the hold for market stage. And somebody in land transaction can speak more detail to this, but this would be a part of them securing this funding would be a part of them moving into the next board action. So they would need to accomplish this before moving on to the next step.
Great, thank you. Any other questions or comments from the board? Okay. With that, entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve. Or second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Great. The motion carries. Thank you all very much. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving next to development services. The first item is Allentown, Grandview South, Hilltop Alliance Scattered Site project.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Afternoon, everyone. My name is Nicholas Person. I'm a lending analyst in the residential lending department of the URA, and I'm here in front of the board today to discuss a proposal and form of contract for the sale of the following listed lots in the 18th Ward to Grandview South Homes LP or related entity for $1 plus costs. This entity is a limited partnership formed by Gatesburg Road Development and Hilltop Alliance with the aim of acquiring 33 vacant and blighted lots in the neighborhood of Allentown to construct 31 new single-family houses rented at affordable rates. Now, of these 33 lots, 17 are owned by the URA. And so as part of the disposition process, the development team entered into exclusive negotiations for the sale and redevelopment of these lots back in December of 2020. Now, fast forward to October 2021, and the development team received a reservation of 9% low-income housing tax credits from the Pennsylvania Housing Finance Agency. And with this reservation letter, Grandview South Homes felt confident in moving forward with their proposal and contract of sale for these URA-owned lots. Now, in their submitted proposal package, they've included detailed site renderings, preliminary evidence of financing, as well as their P4 narrative, evidencing their commitment to producing affordable and sustainable housing. To give a brief summary of what these houses will look like, 23 of the 31 houses will have 2 bedrooms, and their overall square footage will range from 1,006 to 1,523 square feet. And then the remaining 8 other houses will have 3 bedrooms, and their square footage will range from 1,646 to 1,740. In terms of affordability as well, 4 of these houses will be set aside for tenants with incomes at or below 20% area median income. 17 will be set aside for tenants with incomes at or below 50% AMI, and 10 set aside for incomes at or below 60%. 5 of these houses will also be ADA compliant, and another 18 houses will adhere to visitable standards. The development team have also estimated the total development cost for this project to be roughly $12.78 million. Now, should this action be approved by the board, this project will return to the URA board in the near future for the 3rd step of the disposition process, which is approval of final drawings, final evidence of financing, and authorization to execute a deed. But until then, I'd like to now introduce Aaron Sukanik, the Executive Director of Hilltop Alliance, to provide a few additional brief remarks regarding this project. Thank you.
Yeah, hi everyone. Nicholas, thank you for the presentation there. Everything looks great. I just want to, go high level here for a sec. This would be, not only the largest single project investment in Allentown in over 40 years, but I believe it would also be the largest general population affordable housing development in 15210 in about 15 years. So, and we started assembling these properties back in 2014, planning and pre-development since around 2017. And we're just happy to be here, and thank you and the URA for being a partner in the project. So any questions?
I have a question. Could you explain to me the physical differences between a house that is ADA compliant and with visitable?
I'm not sure I can.
I'm just curious. I've never heard visitable before, so I'm really curious what the difference.
Sure, Lindsay, I can explain that just very briefly. So visitable just means that somebody with a physical disability is able to visit the house, but that it's not designed in a way so that they can live there permanently. So
go ahead. I'm sorry. No, please go ahead.
No, so just like an example would be that for an example of a key component of a house that would make it visitable is that there isn't a staircase that you have to climb in order to enter the front door of the house.
Okay, so it's more, I'm assuming entrance ways are accessible, but maybe the shower and the bathroom may not be as accessible. I'm still not exactly getting the
those are part of the components. There are other things to it, but yeah, you're generally grasping the distinction.
Gotcha. Curious, thank you. I appreciate it. I've never heard that term before.
No problem.
Go ahead, Sam.
Well, I simply wanted to say thank you and congratulations to Hilltop Alliance. It's really exciting to see something of this scale happening in Allentown or in the Hilltop neighborhoods. And it's particularly exciting to see a scattered site project of this scale with so many 2 and 3 bedroom units. I feel like it's rare that we're able to see a affordable housing development of any sort with this many 2 and 3 bedroom units. So it's really great to see.
Thank you.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, the number of family sized units is up here is great, especially given, Aaron, we don't have to speak to you, but, for everyone else's understanding the market pressures that are happening up there, in and around Allentown that are very real. I guess sort of along those lines, Nicholas, I didn't hear you mention it, so either for you or for Aaron. Aaron, is the intention to have these be done, as lease kind of purchased through the LIHTC set aside for that, or is Hilltop Alliance going to retain them as rental throughout the compliance period?
Yeah, the intention is for it to convert to lease purchase after the 15-year period, ideally with the tenants, who are in there. And we're even going to have a set aside for escrow for down payment and closing cost assistance for the tenants as well. And I guess also just worth noting, this was something that was very important to the community to include. because Allentown actually, from the 2010 census to the 2020 census, swung from 39% rental to 54% rental. So including that component for a path to ownership was very important.
No, that's great. I know we're going to see this one again. I think when we do, you know, if we can go deeper on that, just for the public's understanding and for folks as you're getting ready to get under construction, and you know, I'm sure excitement will build for how they can get on the wait list for such an amazing opportunity. So, you know, whatever we can do to you know, use this forum to lift that up and let folks know about what's happening and you know, how that can help to positively impact not just the community like you mentioned, Aaron, but for those residents that'll be able to get into the housing. You know, let's make sure we use, you know, our time when you come back for final vote to do that. So anything else from the board? Representative Moran.
And thank you, Aaron, for bringing this project to your neighborhood. I know you care deeply about that community. And it's reassuring to hear how thoughtful you're being about who you're really targeting with this kind of development. Are you thinking or exploring any ways to keep the homes generationally affordable post the initial sale and the expiration of the LIHTC requirements?
If I understand the question correctly, so you mean for them to then pass them down to others, or for other homes in the area?
No, so just particularly for these homes. The model I'm thinking of is like a community land trust, for example, right? And having that when that home transfers ownership, would there be any, you know, restrictions or affordability requirements on the next family or individual to own that property? Is that part of the mix that you're thinking about?
Yeah, so for this project, I mean, I'm open to any ideas. Honestly, we haven't given it much thought beyond the compliance period for the credits. But we certainly have, including trying to engage, you know, the land trust on other scattered site, you know, infill development and rehab for resale projects around this same sort of section of the neighborhood.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that, and you know, glad to see that this fits in with. This is just another step in, you know, many to come. So I appreciate you being with us today, and I appreciate you bringing this to us.
Thank you.
With that, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
I motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, the motion carries. Thank you. Congratulations, and looking forward to seeing you all again soon. Next on the agenda, Fairywood Industrial Tax Increment Financing.
Yep, I can take this one. My name is Nick Fedorik. I'm the Assistant Director of Policy and Development. These authorizations pertain to the Fairywood Industrial Redevelopment Project in the Fairywood neighborhood of Pittsburgh, which is in the West End. This is the same project that received the Business in Our Sites grant mentioned earlier in the agenda. And these three authorization actions enable the URA to advance a plan for tax increment financing, or TIF, to the city, county, and school district, and also allow us to implement the legal documents associated with the TIF. So no URA funds are being encumbered, no land is being transferred. Tax increment financing is a public finance tool. It essentially allows future tax revenue originating from a potential development to be diverted into a special account with a third party that borrowed against in order to build the infrastructure that makes that development possible in the first place. So this site in Fairywood is a 25-acre vacant parcel that was formerly the Broadhead Manor housing development. It was damaged by Hurricane Ivan in 2004 and then acquired by the URA for redevelopment in 2011. You can see the current conditions in the photo on the bottom on this slide. And this site, as you can see, is very difficult to develop. It's very large. There's major environmental issues on the site. There are steep slopes and rocky outcrops, and there's a lack of infrastructure such as utilities and sidewalks on the site. These issues dramatically increase the cost of development. So due to these abnormally high upfront infrastructure costs, the URA is advancing a TIF plan. The proceeds would pay for on-site site work and infrastructure development, such as grading, lighting, and geotech work. The proposed redevelopment is the URA and RIDC are establishing a joint venture for 150,000 square feet of flex industrial and office space. We have secured an anchor tenant, which is Ferguson. They are a major plumbing supply and lighting equipment wholesaler with some retail. The project is estimated to create 222 construction jobs and 40 permanent jobs based on an economic impact study that we've completed as part of the plan. And the site currently pays no taxes. It's completely vacant. Our projections show $264,000 in new annual tax revenue, so every year, for the city, county, and school district.
Thank you, Nick. Any questions, comments from the board? No. Nick, in terms of both what the map that's on the screen and then the use of the proceeds, you mentioned the infrastructure to help facilitate the development, itself, right? That would be generating the revenue. But in terms of sort of, investments that potentially could be made to benefit the sort of broader neighborhood. I know, again, this is early and that'll be part of what we kind of work on with the planning in terms of the specifics. But if you can speak to us about, maybe what some of the thinking is or some of the conversations. I know we even had a community meeting last night with some of the residents, in that part of the neighborhood. So.
Sure. So yeah, we have had 2 community meetings so far in Fairywood with local residents to discuss the development and some of the potential funding. The TIF plan is still in draft form, so we don't have the exact uses finalized. It's anticipated that the majority of funds would be necessary to complete the on-site infrastructure needed, and with some of that going towards other community improvements based on feedback from the community that we are soliciting from community meetings and working with Councilperson Cale Smith.
It was noted earlier that in terms of, and when we had the item before on authorizing, moving ahead with the development of the first building, that, it's exciting to see this. It's a part of the city that doesn't, see sort of a lion's share of the project. So, and certainly of this scale. So great to see us, making these investments there, to give the opportunities for employment. And then, Nick, as the plan develops, opportunities for investment further, in and throughout the community. I know it's something that the council president's excited about from the tour that she and her office took, Director Flissrum and Representative Morato and I on a couple months ago. So to see it moving ahead and moving forward, recognizing this is a first step in a process, I think is exciting, as we begin to continue to move this forward. So with that, unless there are any other comments from the board, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, the motion carries. Thank you, Nick. The last item on the regular agenda is the Larimer Veterans Place campus expansion.
Thank you. So good afternoon. My name is Amanda and I am the Assistant Director of Development Services. Today, I have the genuine joy of asking the board to accept the proposal in form of contract for the sale of block 125C, lots 162, 163, 164, 165, and 166 in the 12th Ward to Veterans Place of Washington Boulevard for $1 plus costs. Oh, thank you, Daniel. In May 2021, the URA entered into a hold for market period with Veterans Place, at which time the URA began the process of acquiring the project's 5 parcels from the city of Pittsburgh. That process ended in April 2022, whenever the URA took ownership of them, and at which time we were able to give Veterans Place a license agreement necessary to complete the diligence and pre-development work necessary to complete and fulfill the proposal package requirements. Just as a little bit of background or scope of what their project is. So the Veterans Place campus expansion will create 8 accessible apartments for low income and homeless veterans, as well as a space to accommodate social service programming. Their total project cost is about $3.5 million, of which 2.75 is already secured, which is a lot at this stage in the development process. The rest of their funding, they have outstanding pending grant applications that more than cover what's left of the project gap. And prior to the sale of this property, the proposed development will again be presented to the URA board for approval with final working drawings and evidence of financing, and then for authorization to execute the deed.
Great. Thanks, Amanda. Any questions, comments from the board?
I have some. I think this is a really exciting project. It's been a long time coming, so I'm really happy to see this on the agenda today. And I just wanted to make a note about the kind of holistic nature of this project and having behavioral and mental health services on site. I think that that is absolutely the way that we should continue to be thinking about some of the spaces that we're building. How do we look at people holistically and build, our development around seeing people as such. So really excited to see this project continue to advance here.
Great. Well said, Director Powell. Any other questions or comments from the board? Okay, with that, entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed or abstentions? Great, the motion carries. Thank you very much, Amanda.
Thank you.
Lastly, the disclosure agenda. I know we want to make a few changes here, both to accommodate some changes to federal guidance, as well as our process to solicit some input and feedback. So on both the own PGH program guidelines, as well as the downtown conversion pilot program guidelines. We have a motion to amend the disclosure agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the disclosure agenda, not in its entirety, but accepting those 2 items, the program guidelines for own PGH and for the downtown conversion pilot. So those 2 items under my motion would be held and move to approve the rest of the disclosure agenda.
Thank you, Director Williamson. We have a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, the motion carries. With that, a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Great. Well, thank you, everybody. Appreciate you making the time to attend the meeting today, and we'll see you next month.
Thank you, everyone.